Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. March 17th, 2025. Let's get into it. I always try to hit you up with some stories that you don't hear about. I tell you what, I would never want to be on the bad side of Laura Loomer. she is tenacious, man. I don't even know how she finds these stories out. But anyway, she put up a post, said she went to, I don't know if she went to South Africa or not. It sounded like she did. But she found Hunter Biden, and evidently he's in a luxury condo on the beach in South Africa. So let's watch that video now.
I've been tracking Hunter Biden and his wife, Melissa Cohen Biden, all the way in South Africa. Yes, Hunter Biden actually fled the country to Africa to dodge a deposition in his infamous laptop lawsuit. For those of you who have been following along, several years ago, Hunter Biden filed a lawsuit against an individual by the name of Garrett Ziegler, who has a foundation called the Marco Polo 501c3. Garrett Ziegler was a former Trump administration official who published the Hunter Biden laptop. And, Hunter Biden tried to say that his laptop was hacked and that the images of him in all types of weird sexual positions, all types of compromising positions, doing drugs, all types of weird and what some would say illegal situations. He's trying to say that this is all Photoshop and fake information, when in reality, everything on Hunter Biden's laptop was on his laptop. And so we have a video here. We can actually play it for you momentarily. But long story short, before we get to the video that was released by Garrett Ziegler today, I was able to track Hunter Biden down and prove that he was out of the country at the time that he submitted a signed declaration with the court saying that he was broke. So Hunter Biden doesn't want to have to pay his attorney's fees. The case has been dismissed with prejudice, which means that that Hunter Biden is no longer allowed to actually file this lawsuit ever again. And now Garrett Ziegler is trying to petition the court to grant him attorney's fees and make Hunter Biden pay his attorney's fees. And what's really interesting is that Hunter Biden claimed in this declaration that he signed under oath and submitted to the court on March 5th that he is 100% broke, that he has no money, that his artwork in his home was destroyed in the recent fires in Malibu. But then I caught him in South Africa on a 5-star vacation, a luxury vacation, staying at an Oceanside villa. And what I also proved, and I said this, over a week ago, and people mocked me and they said that I wasn't telling the truth or that it couldn't be confirmed. I said that Hunter Biden was still receiving Secret Service protection and that he was fleeing the country to South Africa. And what do you know? Through my tracking operation on the ground in South Africa, I was able to exclusively confirm that Hunter Biden fled the country to avoid his deposition, and he has a 12 Secret Service agent per day detail on the ground in South Africa.
All right, so that was that. Then the next one I wanted to get into was, I don't know if you knew, Dan Bongino is on the job. Today's his first day, and boy, did he come in with both guns blazing. Let's watch Dan Bongino before Congress.
Well, thanks for your time. Thank you for doing this. Sound okay? Everybody hear me back there? Yeah. Great, fantastic. Listen, let's just get right to the point. This was an apocalyptic security failure. A man was murdered in front of his family. 3 people were shot on live television, including President Trump in the head, who came within 2 millimeters of having his head explode on national television in front of millions of people. There's no sugarcoating it. It's no time for BS. Unfortunately, as Congressman Crane and Mills both indicated, the story seems to have been vanquished to the phantom zone of media coverage. It's amazing how we're still talking about JFK's assassination, but nobody seems to want to talk about President Trump being shot in the head on national television, despite the fact that we have no answers. So I have 5 minutes, so I want to keep it quick, and I want to make 3 points. I worked in the Secret Service for 12 years. I loved it. I worked with some really amazing men and women who gave everything. I mean, a couple of them literally gave everything. I know guys who've gotten bizarre diseases overseas, like chikungunya fever and protection operations. Everybody gave a little bit of something in the Secret Service, and it was a real honor to say I was part of it. But they have 3 institutional problems, I believe, in the macro will help us get to the bottom of how this Secret Service apocalyptic failure won't happen again. First, they have a technology problem. The joke in the Secret Service, which is sadly no longer funny when I was there, and it wasn't funny then either, is they rely on yesterday's technology tomorrow. Think about that. Yesterday's technology tomorrow. Everything from computer systems that waste agents' times, filling out time and attendance records they were doing, to Congressman Crane and I discussing the fact that they only implemented slings, a technology as old as the wheel, about, 5 or 6 years into my time in the Secret Service, which is embarrassing. The weaponry was old, everything was old. These are things I would have talked about sooner if they didn't create a security crisis, and I obviously didn't want to air them publicly. Now you're seeing what happens when you don't have a drone up at a site you could have bought for $39.99 on Amazon. Second, another adage in the Secret Service, you've heard even the new acting director discuss, is the more with less approach. There is no more with less, there's less with less, okay? The Secret Service more with less approach only works if you produce more. That's how capitalism works. You produce a flat screen TV that was probably 20 years ago, $10,000. It's $200 at Walmart now. They produce a better TV with less. That's not what the Secret Service did. They produced less with more. They were given more money and produced less. A 20-year-old criminal outsmarted them on a $40 drone technology piece of device. You're telling me that's more with less? That's disgusting. That's nothing with less. That's less with more. Their budget went up. You guys know, you're appropriators. You know that. Third, and I'll wrap it up with this, turn it over to Mr. Prince. The investigative mission, the Secret Service, that they're telling you they need to make them better agents is total crap. That's garbage. Their agents are talented, smart people. They can figure out how to do protection without running out cheap $20 counterfeit notes at 7-Eleven on a Friday night while the president's getting shot in the head. How is it we have a DEA, we have an FBI, we have TIGTA, the IRS, CBP, and 1,000 other entities with a $6 trillion budget, which I know a lot of you guys have been fighting against this grotesque spending. $3 billion goes to the Secret Service, and we're wasting time running out counterfeit notes. It's a serious problem, counterfeiting. Granted, it might be a legacy item. They started doing counterfeiting. That's not what we do now. Get rid of the investigative mission, turn it over to other people, let them do what they do best and should do best. Protection. Thanks a lot for your time. Thank you for doing this. Thanks to the panelists as well and everyone attending. Appreciate it.
All right, so that was Dan Bongino. So then, I don't know if you knew, but Israel is bombing the heck out of Lebanon. It was 10 airstrikes. So if there was a ceasefire, it doesn't exist anymore. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I guess maybe I haven't heard anything about Hezbollah shooting rockets into Israel, at least not recently. But I don't know. Israel's continuing to bomb Lebanon. So the other story I just kind of wanted to talk about, and I don't understand it, was Trump bombed Yemen, and everybody calls them the Houthis. And evidently, well, the Houthis said that he killed women and children. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that bombing is. You didn't know, we've been at war with Yemen for 12 years. So they've been bombed for 12 years, because we were supporting Saudi Arabia and they were fighting with our planes and our bombs, and now we're bombing them again. I don't think Yemen's going to care. Now, the reason that Yemen started up stopping the shipping, if you didn't know, Israel is blocking the humanitarian aid into Gaza. So, and that's the condition that the Houthis, or the Yemen fighters, I prefer to call them, that's the reason that they're upset. So they resumed their assault on the shipping in the area, and then Trump's beating his chest, saying he's going to attack Iran. Man, that would be a really dumb thing to do. I mean, because we got too many bases in the Middle East, which we need to pull out. And Iran's going to hit them with their missiles. So a lot of Americans are going to die. And I would imagine, Iran also has a navy. So they probably have got, and in fact, I know they've got drones, underwater drones where they could take out some of our fleet of ships there in the Red Sea. So I don't think that's a war that we want to get into. And for what? As far as I know, Iran hasn't done anything other than that they say that they're arming Hezbollah and the Yemen fighters. So, but I don't know. If you listen to Scott Ritter, he says that the Yemen, they build their own weapons and that they've been building them for years. Now, I imagine they probably get something from Iran, but I don't know. You tell me. The other huge story, we're going to watch a clip on this, is, well, and Alex Jones said it best. If you didn't know, if you've watched me in previous videos, I've always questioned whether those pardons that all went out at the last minute in Joe Biden's presidency were legal or not. And so now that they're saying that was an Autopen signature and that Joe Biden didn't sign any of those pardons, therefore they're null and void, which would make sense. Because, even if he had signed them, I wasn't sure of the legality of a preemptive pardon. For whatever reason, Fauci hasn't been charged with a crime. The whole Biden family was pardoned. But as far as I know, the only one that's ever been charged with a crime was Hunter Biden. And he's in South Africa now. Wonder why. So, and maybe his pardon is no good anymore, right? So anyway, let's watch Alex Jones on that video now.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump just made the most important announcement in his 56 days back in office. On X and Truth Social, he posted a statement below that is absolutely on target. Joe Biden stole the 2020 election. All that evidence has come out. But where we have it cut and dry is the fact that they've only found a few signatures that were real Joe Biden signatures. Everything else was Autopen. And most of the time he was out of D.C. or out of the country when these were signed. Now, as you know, it came out months ago that Speaker Johnson, over a year ago, went to meet with Biden. Took him months to get into the meeting. Biden had to kick his staff out, and he said, "Sir, you have banned all liquid gas sale, liquid natural gas, billions a day to the world." Biden said, "That's not true." Brought in his staff. He found the executive order, said, "Oh my God, who did this?" He reversed it the next day, okay? Joe Biden is totally illegitimate, and under the law, none of the stuff he signed, the executive orders, the pardons, other directives, are legal. We know he stole the 2020, but regardless of that. So Trump and his crew in the last few weeks have announced that they have an investigation. They're talking to the people involved in the White House, and there's a Justice Department criminal investigation. From my White House sources and DOJ sources, I'm told it is their main focus now. And I talked about this a few weeks ago, but now it's openly being announced by the president. This is absolutely massive because the public now knows we have an illegitimate deep state. The trillions of dollars that have been stolen, funneled out the Democrats, the $375 billion that John Podesta over the EPA New Deal green funds gave the Democrats. These people are going down. Literally a bureaucratic dictatorship, and we need congressional subpoenas. We need hearings. We need to expose this whole thing, drag these people in. But Trump mainly focuses on the pardons, and those are important, of the J6 criminal committee and all the falsification of evidence and destruction of evidence and everything they did, witness tampering. But it's everything. It's the energy policy, the military operations, the bombing of Russia, all of that. So this system is literally going down right now. And I'm told from our sources that this is probably going to be some of the first indictments that we're going to see, not just Jim Comey, who they've also said is under criminal investigation, James Comey, for the things he did. So we'll be covering this today at 11 a.m. Central, at Real Alex Jones on X for the live feeds, and so much more. But this is the biggest issue, 1,000 times bigger than Hunter Biden's laptop or any of that stuff. The only thing close is starting World War III and over 1 million smuggled kids into the country. We've got to bring these criminals to justice. They're corner rats, and that's what makes them so dangerous. So President Trump openly pointing out the fact that Joe Biden's presidency and almost everything he did was illegitimate. Thank you so much. Now get this report out to everybody you know, because this is the end of the globalists, the end of the deep state.
But as we predicted, there have been new developments from the Donald Trump administration. At 11:35 p.m. last night, Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. He says, "The pardons that Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by Autopen." In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the Unselect Committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. And so there you have it, folks. We had a massive onslaught of pardons which occurred at the very end of the Biden administration. And the only one that really made any sense to me was the Julian Assange pardon, which may not even be included in this list of the pardons that Trump is saying are null and void. But it's very obvious that Joe Biden had totally lost his mind basically for the duration of his entire presidency. The public was made abundantly aware of it beyond reasonable doubt after the June 30th or June 31st? June 30th. There is no June 31st. Debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, where he couldn't put a sentence together, where he looked vacant and confused and distant during the entire debate, and he just got totally run over by Donald Trump. And they were throwing softball questions at him and trying to make it as easy as possible, trying to tee it up. They had him all keyed up on whatever drugs they're giving him, Adderall, other uppers, to try to keep his eyes open and his feet on the ground as he stood stiff as a board before the entire country. I mean, his performance was so bad in that debate that within a month, they'd replaced him as the candidate. Pelosi had pushed him out, ushered in Kamala Harris, who was even worse than Joe Biden, as Donald Trump predicted on his golf cart in that leaked video. And he said, oh, they're gonna push Joe Biden out and it's going to be Kamala Harris and she's even worse. It's exactly what happened in the coming weeks after that debate performance. And ever since this summer, when that happened, the entire country and the world, for that matter, has known beyond reasonable doubt that Joe Biden had totally lost his mind. And I think that's grounds enough for all of the legislation that he signed, all of the executive orders that he signed, all of the pardons that he signed, he didn't even sign, being null and void. Because you can't enforce a contract signed by someone who is incapable of understanding what they have signed. And what's more, he didn't even sign these documents. It was done using Autopen. Now, I don't know the intricacies of the law around when a president can use Autopen or not. I'm seeing conflicting reports as to whether or not Autopen can even be used for something like a presidential pardon. I suspect not, but the fact of the matter is there's no evidence whatsoever that Joe Biden even knew they were being signed, who was on these lists, or what was going on. I think the only one he was probably even remotely aware of, if he's capable of being aware of anything, was the pardoning for Hunter Biden that went all the way back to 2014. That one makes sense to me. But given the nature of Hunter Biden and his constant scheming and manipulation and exploitation of whatever office his father holds, I'm sure that he was absolutely behind making sure that happened as well.
Okay, so there was that. The other little tidbit that if you don't follow Robert Kennedy, you got to follow him. He's putting out "Make America Healthy Again" tips on X, and the tip that I liked a lot, he said, "Eat more beef jerky." I'm a beef jerky fanatic, man. So that was good news for me. How's it? Because he said it's full of protein and good stuff. Now the beef jerky that I get is you can get the sugar-free beef jerky, great value, at Walmart. It's expensive, no kidding. Well, all beef jerky is pretty expensive, but I like the fact that there's zero sugar in the beef jerky and it tastes good. Problem is, it just doesn't last very long, at least not in my house. But that was a good Maha tip right there. So I thought that was good. I got another video. This is Elon talking about the threats on his life. Can you imagine? The guy's just trying to find waste and fraud in the government and save the country. But before we get into the Elon video, I wanted you to watch this explanation of why everybody's so pissed off, because it makes perfect sense. The Democrats think your tax dollars is their money. There's no other explanation, and that's why they're all upset, because we're cutting them off from their taxpayer money. It ain't their money, it's your money. It should be spent on the American people. But Democrats, they think it's that our tax money is their money. Now let's watch that video.
Well, Laura, I was at the State of the Union and I was up in the balcony. I was looking down at the Democrats holding up these silly little signs. And the sign that I saw the most was one that said, Musk steals. And I really thought about that, which is, how is Elon stealing? He's returning money to the Treasury. And then it hit me. They actually have come to believe that this taxpayer money is theirs. And by returning it to the Treasury, Elon is stealing from them. That's my best explanation of why they're in such a hysterical state about this. But of course, Elon isn't stealing anything. He is making sure that the federal government is taking good care of our money and that we're not wasting it. It's not going to corruption or fraud. And I think that just has the swamp in an absolute tizzy because he, along with the president and at the president's direction, they are draining the swamp.
All right, so that's the explanation. And then I wanted to get one more video. We'll probably put another clip on here. But let's get Elon talking about all the threats on his life real quick, and then I'll add to the video here in a bit. I'm going to be doing the fire road today. That's tough hiking. It's a beautiful day here in Florida, man. It's like 68 degrees. All right, we'll get you on the rebound on the next clip.
If Doge was ineffective, if we were not actually getting rid of a bunch of waste and fraud, and a bunch of that fraud, the fraud we're seeing is overwhelmingly on the left. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not zero on the right, but these NGOs are almost all left-wing NGOs that are being funded, for example.
Yep.
So they hate me because Doge is being effective, and Doge is getting rid of a lot of waste and fraud that people on the left were taking advantage of. That's what it comes down to. And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that Doge is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. Everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, Small Business Administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yep.
Okay, this is the thing that why they really hit my guts and want me to die.
All right, let's get you a view of the forest here, because I have to keep an eye on where I'm putting my feet. Anyway, two more stories real quick. There was a flight of, what is it, Tren de Aragua? Is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, the plane was full of terrorists or drug cartel criminals. And a judge, an activist Democrat judge, told Trump to bring the plane back and bring the terrorists back into the country, or the drug cartel. And Trump ignored him. He said it was already over international water, so therefore he could ignore the judge's court order to bring the plane. What judge on the planet? I mean, I know it's a Democrat judge, that explains it. But what judge would want to bring drug cartel members back into the country after we've picked them up and caught them? That's just the craziest thing I ever heard. That was one story. And then I had to talk about Ukraine for just a minute. And I might tack on some video at the end of this video of war footage from some of the things going on in Kersh. But that tunnel thing was a lot more strategic than if you want to watch the Military Summary channel, he does a real good job of describing everything that took place with that tunnel operation. I told you that was one of the greatest military feats I'd ever heard of. And he was pointing out, and I was pointing out, I guess the likelihood of that operation succeeding was on the low side, because the Russians didn't expect it to succeed. And I haven't heard one way or the other, but I would imagine that all the guys, the 800 guys that went into that tunnel or that pipeline, had to volunteer, because that was really, they all thought it was going to be a one-way journey, which tells you the bravery of the Russians, because they didn't think that operation would succeed. Because, when you think about it, suppose they had been discovered as they were coming out on the other end of that pipeline. Well, the Ukrainians would have just mowed them down. But as it turned out, they were real lucky. It was like about 8 hours before the Ukrainians even knew that they were there. And by that time, all the Russians were out of the pipeline and had set up, fields of fire and laid down. And so they were ready to kill a bunch of Ukrainians. By the way, the latest number of dead in Kerch was 70,000. Now, the Russians had a backup plan if the tunnel didn't work, by the way, and those guys got killed. I didn't realize they had diverted. That's why they haven't been making huge advancements along the lines of battle, in the Donbass and Zaporizhzhia region, and all the other front battles that they're fighting, because they had diverted a lot of their forces to Kerch, and that's why Putin showed up in military garb and said, "Let's finish this." So the Russians were expecting a lot of casualties. They were going to go in there if the tunnel hadn't worked. They were going to go in there and take them out one way or the other. And they were just lucky that the tunnel or the pipeline operation succeeded. Getting kind of behind a tree. Isn't that a pretty view? Yeah. Anyway, that's why I walked this fire road, because you do get this view. But anyway, so now they've got all those forces. Well, right now they're still cleaning up the city. I guess that's a pretty big city that they took back, because evidently there's a lot of booby traps in there, mines. Like I said, they found a bunch of civilians. But the Ukrainians evidently had tortured and beat them and killed them and raped them. So that's why they're calling the Ukrainians terrorists rather than prisoners of war. Another story is there's 30 NATO officers that have been in the cauldron that are in there. That's according to the Russians, that is. But if there's 30 NATO officers, how many other mercenaries are in there? I would wonder how many of them, because if you got 30 officers, underneath those officers, there could be a bunch of NATO troops that were part of that operation. So who knows? And by the way, those are considered mercenaries, and the Russians usually kill them on sight. But I guess with Trump asking them to show mercy, maybe they'll show mercy on that. But anyway, so I would expect that along the front lines now, when the Russians are finished redeploying all of the troops they had in Kerch to wherever they're going to deploy them, you're probably going to see things start moving more rapidly as far as the war goes. We'll get one more nature shot here. Sorry about that sun, but anyway, if I think of something else, I'll get it on the video. Wow, check this out. I just happened right in front of him. Look at him. I'm right next to him. Huh. He's looking around. Well, there he goes. All right. Well, that was cool. Wasn't expecting that. Not this close to him. All right, I'm going to do this the easy way. A little bit more on that. Those were, by the way, those were Venezuelan gang members convicted of all kinds of crimes, wanted in multiple countries, that judge told Trump to turn the plane around on. If you didn't know, the Biden administration, well, actually, they're working with Venezuela, because Venezuela emptied like Trump said, they emptied their prisons into the United States, and the Biden administration went down and helped Venezuela import those criminals into the United States, because no doubt about it, the Democrats were trying to destroy the United States. Why else would you bring hardened criminals intentionally into the United States? And unfortunately, our taxpayer money paid for that. So Trump's just returning them. But I mean, he sent them to El Salvador, and if you didn't know, El Salvador was pretty much taken over by drug cartels. Very, very violent place. Murders everywhere. Anyway, I don't know how the guy who got in charge was able to do it, but he rounded up tens of thousands of criminals and put them in this giant prison. And I guess we're going to pay El Salvador to house these Venezuelan criminals, because I guess Trump was worried if he sent them back to Venezuela that somehow that they might make their way back into the United States. you never know. But I mean, if Biden's not picking them up and bringing them here, I don't know whether they would come back or not. Who knows? But that's kind of the rest of the story. Let me show you what I'm hiking. Whew, this is tough hiking, man. This sand's hard to get through. But anyway, one more scenic view. I just thought I'd get you the rest of the story on that in case you're interested. Maybe I'll get it I'll put it up above. But I wanted to show you this. Boy, I tell you, if I was a hunter, this is where I would set up my killing area. Because every time I come through here, I don't know why, but the deer really use this track to come through here. I mean, every time I get there. Anyway, they'll put the post up. It was, I don't know, they found another $230-some billion, and they're calling it fraud that the Biden administration was doing on the U.S. taxpayers. I no longer even get infuriated. I mean, it's just, I'm numb to a Democrat at this point. I couldn't be around a Democrat never. I mean, if somebody said they're a Democrat, I'd just walk away. I'd walk away at this point. I mean, you know, I wouldn't even try to argue with them, you know, or even have a conversation with them. I just don't want to be around a Democrat. I mean, what they've done to this country and all the fraud that they've committed. Evil people, man. Unbelievable. I wanted to get two other things on the video. You know, those astronauts were up there 9 months, and they were only supposed to be there 5 days. Biden left them up there for political reasons. Can you believe that shit? Anyway, Elon's bringing them home tomorrow in a capsule. I guess it's going to splash down in the ocean. I hope I can watch it on TV. I don't know, but I did want to clue you in on just a couple of things. If you wanted to learn all about these activist judges and everything there, you on Rumble, you can look up Viva Fry, okay? And him and Barnes, they do a weekly broadcast on Sundays. And I like watching it because I tell you, it's usually pretty long, but you learn a hell of a lot. And I tell you what, that Robert Barnes, he is one smart cookie. I mean, I don't know, because he brings up historical precedents for all of these legal cases, and it makes it entertaining. And just, I don't know how in the hell he's I mean, I'd have to have the textbooks in front of me. He just pulls it right out of his head. That was one. The other thing I wanted to get into, man, check out the Wheel of Time on Amazon. If you subscribe to Amazon, Robert Jordan wrote, if you want to read the books first, that would be even better, because those are some of the best fantasy novels that I've ever read. I mean, they were fantastic. I do, and he wrote a bunch of them. Anyway, they're doing a really, really good job with the Wheel of Time on Amazon. And I mean, even the characters, the cast of characters that they put together is exactly in my mind how I envisioned the characters looking in the book, you know. So anyway, I've really been enjoying that. I'm not much of a TV person, but because I'd read those books by Robert Jordan, I got into it. Now, there's only the first 3 episodes for the next season, but if you go back to the beginning, I tell you, it's been good all the way through. Just wanted to throw that out there.
The president was begging the question that I think a lot of journalists in this room should be asking about whether or not the former president of the United States, who I think we can all finally agree was cognitively impaired. I know it took people some time to finally admit that, but we all know that to be true, as evidenced by his disastrous debate performance against President Trump during the campaign. I digress on that. But the president was raising the point that, did the president even know about these pardons? Was his illegal signature used without his consent or knowledge? And that's not just the president or me raising those questions, Caitlin. According to the New York Post, there are Biden officials from the previous White House who raised those questions and wondered if the president was even consulted about his legally binding signature being signed onto documents. And so I think it's a question that everybody in this room should be looking into, because certainly that would propose perhaps criminal or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the President of the United States autograph without his consent.
Biden is on the record talking about issuing preemptive pardons to these people.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter. You should find out.